Well, welcome to our fourth session of bikablo Global Trainer Interviews, where I would like to get to know, I would like to know a little bit more about the global trainers so that the viewers of these videos understand who they're dealing with once they enter the training room. We have a very international group today, and I am super happy to have Elena, Donatella, and Christian. Elena, why don't you start with introducing yourself? Where are you from? Yeah.
Well, hello everyone, and hello visualizers of the world, because we all know that everyone can draw. So I am Elena. My name is Elena Urizar. I am from Bilbao in the north of Spain, but actually I live in Madrid. Currently I live in Madrid, and I am a full-time visual thinker, and mainly what I do is like drawing life and capturing the intelligence of group and enabling dialogues through the pictures. And also I do use visuals to explain things and to find a common ground of understanding among people.
So when you say that you live in Madrid right now, are you thinking about moving or?
Maybe, yeah. I have some island in the back of my head, like maybe that blue means something. Yeah, yeah. But see, what I think I can, and now it has been accelerated. But I had that mindset that you can live wherever you feel like and build your life there and travel to service. So I think right now I live in Madrid. I'm happy here, but maybe I'll be somewhere else. Yeah, for sure.
Wow, looking forward to see what's coming in the future. Donatella, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Donatella. I'm based in São Paulo, Brazil, South America. And I am originally from Uruguay, so I'm a Spanish speaker as well. I'm a graphic recorder for 17 years now, and I love what I do.
Wow. Thank you so much. And Christian.
Hej allihopa, jag heter Christian. Oh, sorry, I was gonna do it in English. Hi guys, I'm just kidding. I'm Christian and I'm currently living in Malmö, very close to Copenhagen and yeah, Scandinavia, I guess. So I work as a visual thinker and a graphic recorder and produce animated videos and all kinds of visual things. So I basically help people that are speaking to, yeah, visualize their thoughts and what comes out of their mouth. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so the idea to have the three of you on the call, and I think that speaks to the diversity of the global bikablo community, because I try that in each session we have people with a similar profession. Yeah, and this time it's graphic recording, because all of you are well versed in graphic recording. But before we move into that, I would like to know how did you enter, let's say, the bikablo space? So when did you hear first about it, and how did you become a bikablo trainer? And maybe this time we start with Donatella. Donatella, tell us about it.
Okay. Well, I heard about bikablo 10 years ago at a conference in San Francisco, United States, an IFVP conference, a forum of visual practitioners. And Neuland was there with their markers and books, and the bikablo book was there. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. But all the things were in German, and I don't speak German. So, but okay. And some years later, back in 2016, in another IFVP conference, I met you, Frank. So
yeah.
started to have some conversations, yeah, in DC. And after that, 2 years ago, came the invitation to become a bikablo trainer. So I love it. And I went to Cologne to take my trainer and and I'm loving it.
Look how far we've come, 10 years ago. I mean, I didn't even know about it back then, but and then everything was just available in German, and now we're sitting here with a quite international bunch. So I'm super happy about that. So Elena, what about you? What's your story with bikablo?
Well, I discovered the Visual International World in Berlin in 2014. To attending that conference to me was totally a game changer. I discovered Neuland there, and I started looking at bikablo, and to me, I was interested in the way things were so well structured, so well shown, so well explained. If I think of Martin or like the people around bikablo, I think how things were well explained. And I was just, but it was kind of around me. But then I met you, Frank. We had a talk. For us, it was Paris, that first moment. And then,
yeah.
And then we arranged the hosting of one bikablo training in Madrid. I was the host, and then I was amazed how people learn so easily. People were, wow, it was the power was in their hands. Suddenly people that were not delivered, they were just curious people, facilitators, they said, well, we may do it. And then in 2 days, they were just preparing these amazing presentations. And I said, well, Frank, I need to help. I want to help people to reach to this. And then I joined the trainers as well as Donatella, and be surrounded of wonderful people as well, which is very important too.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I remember it was in Paris, and then we had the training in Spanish, and with my limited capabilities, but nevertheless we made it, and I was happy to have Justo, another trainer by my side, who was very fluent. Well, thank you for that. And both of you, like Donatella and Elena, you're also Northern ambassadors, right?
Yeah. Actually, I have my, like Donatella. I talk Donatella. I'm gonna have my thing here in my beautiful background and make a point of orange here.
Well, we can't see it. You have to put it at the very back of the table, I think.
Very back.
Yes, there. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Fantastic. All right.
I have another orange point. I come from fine arts and design, so that's very important for me. Yes, we are.
No, it's complete. Fantastic. Hey, Christian, and what's your story?
So I guess, I don't know if I'm the rookie on board, but I fell into graphic facilitation and sketchnoting and graphic recording by chance, actually. I was looking for something else to do with my life, and I came across a training in Denmark, a 2-day graphic facilitator training, and I was scooped up by that company, and I did, only after a couple of weeks, I did a lot of their trainings. And apparently it went very, very well. And one thing led to another. We were, using bikablo. I did one of the bikablo graphic recording trainings, and I met Martin, and it was like, oh, this guy rocks. And then I went to the EUVs, 2017, I think it was, or 18?
18.
18 in Copenhagen, yeah. 18, yeah. And I saw more bikablo guys, and I saw a lot of the community, and I said, I want to dive deeper. And so the connection to bikablo was made, and I was just like, oh, one day I want to work with these guys. One day when I'm really good, I want to work with these guys. And one day the door opened, and here I am now, doing bikablo basic trainings, and doing a lot of, like, because of the situations right now, the COVID, not so many trainings, but more graphic recording. So that's what's getting me by for the moment.
Yeah. And I remember I picked you up with rental bikes. So I love that story. When you came to Cologne, I said would be, can we go to the office by bike? So
that's so funny. Yeah. And my partner that I had with me, he's been working for a very big international company and did a lot of purchasing globally. And he said, it's the first time I meet a supplier and it picks us up on bikes. It was funny.
Yeah, so we were 3 guys on bikes and a dog. And then it was fast though. We were at the office quite quickly.
It's like with everything, you got to be flexible and adjustable.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. I mean, to me, the introduction to bikablo was really the trainings, sort of, because here in Germany, it's quite well known, very established, for a long time. And I, just like Christian said, I went to the first training, then I looked at it, and I immediately booked the second training. And sort of, so it was not just the technique, but it was also the people that sort of made me feel at home a little bit. But let's not talk about that too much, because I probably talk about this for another hour. So I am interested, and maybe the viewers are interested as well, in, so what does a typical day for you look like? And there's probably no typical day, but I would like to, and it's fine, but if you would describe a typical day, what would that look like? And I would say, let's go around the circle again, and then we can dive into a conversation. But again, ladies first. So Elena, if you would describe a typical day, what would that look like? If you think of, you're saying I'm a visual thinker, what does a typical day look like?
A typical day of drawing live, which is one of the main things I do, and I really love doing it. I wake up like around 6, more or less. Everything is prepared the day beforehand, but I think it's not. So I review everything, and if I have all the colors, and every time. Well, right now it's different because we are working from home, but going to the places, which was the habitude before. I always think, well, I'm gonna pick this palette of colors. I'm gonna go there, but I always take all of them.
Yeah.
And then the last minute, I say, well, then this olive green, I may use olive green. So everything goes. And normally I have a very set palette. I use specific colors, but they all travel with me. I call my markers, I call them magic ones, because I think they make magic and give me this superpower. And I think that it gives power to the people that are sharing their information. So I go to the venue. I like to arrive like an hour or 1 hour and a half before everything starts. So that time helps me to sit down. It's kind of starts building the focus, because when I work, I have to be super focused. So I unroll the paper, I put it, and then people come to me, oh, hello, you need help? And I say, no, thank you. Like I am in my ritual, like putting up the paper. I cut lots of papers beforehand, and I build my area, my corner. In Basque, which is the Basque country where I come from, we have a word called choco, which is like a little corner. It could be many other things, but it could be a little corner. It's where people gather, and let's call it little corner. So I build my little corner. I sit and I see where things are set, and I'm normally ready like 40 minutes or 45 minutes before people start arriving, and I start drawing titles, or maybe not. It depends on the day and the session, because I think I customize a lot the sessions for the clients. So depending on what's going on, I prepare the title, and it depends a lot, but something that kind of warms up, allows me to warm up, and I get ready for listening, which is the key thing I will be doing throughout the session or the day. Normally it's at least a half a day there or a whole day, and I draw as many murals as needed due to the session, if it's a workshop or a conference with different speakers, and I super focus. I forget about anything else, and I start listening, processing, and capturing things. It's funny because just 1 year ago I did a super big conference, and yesterday I was reviewing some pictures, and it allowed me to see myself doing it, because it was one that is very cool, that I'm coloring here and looking there and listening. So some people say I have like a 2 dimensions in my brain, so maybe I have, because I'm drawing here and looking there. So, but I'm in service. I call myself a tool for the people. So I capture the information, and then when everything finishes, I go down. But also the wrapping up, it's sometimes I have to share what I've drawn, sometimes not, but it's like also ritual. And then I relax and go back home, and and put back all my markers in place. And normally I like to go to have a nice dinner somewhere. It kind of recovers me. So that would be a good graphic recording day.
Thank you. I will touch back on a couple of things later when we go into a discussion. Christian, what would a typical day look like for you?
Well, it's like Elena says, I really like to be prepared. So I've all the cars packed for the day before. If it's a long drive, I would typically go the day before and sleep, so I wake up fresh, so I don't have to battle with traffic or any other uncertainties. I arrive, like Elena says, an hour and a half, maybe more before, depending on if I'm doing a digital graphic recording or if I'm doing on paper. I will also, as Elena says, set up my space or my area of operations. And I normally prepare like a book for that company. So I have like, I don't know if you want to call it a cheat sheet, but you know, if they start talking about, you know, something special, I would have thought a lot about that conference or session in advance, and I would have small pictures. I'm not an artist, so it doesn't come easy to me like that. So I need to have some cheat sheets that I can pull up quickly if I need. And then I just get ready for the conference and sit and relax and try to have a clean sheet when it starts. Maybe I'll have the company logo and things like that, but apart from that, not. And then when they kick off, I kick off, and people are in the beginning are like, what's this and what's going on? But then as it develops, they're like more and more intrigued. And in the first coffee break, people are always like coming up and saying, oh, this is so cool, and you just add to the conference, and thank you for doing this, and this was my thought exactly. So it's just so cool to be able to challenge someone else's thoughts and dialogue and just visualize it. And I in a way, I don't think I'm doing anything special, but it does become special, and it does add to the collective of the day. And I'm sure Elena and Donatella feel this way as well and experience this as well. And it's like also you say, Elena, at the end of the day, you're totally like just need to land and just process, and you're extremely tired because you're in a sense of hyper focus and just you're there for the customer. And I mean, if the building was on fire, you probably wouldn't notice until it was like burning your shoulders or something. You're so into it. And yeah, it's an amazing feeling and skill. And afterwards, you need to land. And I like to just let everyone leave and just sit for a while, and then just pack up my stuff easy and drive slow home. Yeah.
And again, like lots of similarities, especially
Exactly.
when it comes to the ritual. Donatella, how is that for you?
Well, when I have an event, it's the same. I include a little searching about things regarding the session or the client, especially about colors, because I had a lot of clients, and sometimes they are in the same industry. So I try to use the colors of their logo so it can represent them and not the competitor, right? And at the end of the day, I was I'm always tired, but I try to listen to good music or to watch cartoons. So my mind is like free of all that tension and listening and paying attention. And I have a good laugh and a good time with myself. But I really am a visual person, so my day always starts with a mind map. I prepare a mind map for my day, for my activities, for the things that I need to do and that I need to prepare or to plan afterwards. But I'm always doing a mind map for this. And okay, first of all, today my iPad is my best friend, right? I'm still doing my mind mapping in paper with colors and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we will talk about digital a little bit because I think it has a huge impact on our lives. You know, well, I guess there's always pros and cons, but you know, since the launch of the iPad Pro, you know, and the Apple Pencil, I think so many things have changed a lot when it comes to not just graphic recording, but also illustration, because things have become so much easier. one of our trainers, she says it's awesome because now she can sit on the couch, and she can work, or even on the train, you can now work and you don't have to carry your Wacom tablet, or computer with you. So that, definitely had a very, very positive impact. What I observed, so what all of you said is that you have some kind of ritual, right? Something that makes you feel sort of safe, maybe, right? Maybe safe is the right word, but so that you are able to work. And to me, that's fascinating. I mean, me myself, I'm not a graphic recorder. I'm more in the trainer sphere, but I also need to be comfortable in the room. I always need to know, like, what does the room look like? I need to be there in advance. I need to prep, and I sort of need to center myself so that I can deliver a good job. And so how has that ritual changed? Because, now we are in this COVID situation, and I'm not sure who of you have done a virtual graphic recording or maybe visual facilitation virtually. But has that changed? And did that have an impact on you regarding the ritual? Maybe we go with Elena first.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I have done it, and definitely it was challenging in the beginning. The first thought it was is it possible? To me, that was the first question. But then, assuming it was going to happen, I start practicing. I start and listening to webinars or to news and to practice, because my main concern was reaching that flow state.
Flow. Yeah.
Because to me, it's a flow state, and I agree totally with Christian. If the venue burns or whatever, I wouldn't care. I'm hyper concentrated. I'm there. I share that a lot. So my concern was, will I be able to find that flow state? Because I'm in the house and there the birds are flying and there's the kitchen things going on. But I found it, and I used this as a classical drawing table. Those the classical illustrator drawing table. I have it because it was a present, but I didn't use it that much, because if I was drawing at home, I may use it or not. But then I put it. There's a window here, as you can see. So I put it in front of the window, and then my computer is in my left. And I'm using the mini chart size paper, like the Neuland top chart size, and it fit perfectly there. So I start drawing, and I found that state, which was my main concern. And I used more papers, but since I was doing it for myself and practicing and very interested in what was going on, I used like many different sheets, and I wasn't worried about them. And then I liked the outcome, and I found another asset if I use 3 or 4 sheets, I compile them in Photoshop, and there I actually do editorial editing. I don't know if that's correct, like content editing. When I scan a classical graphic recording, I don't do much editing. I may clean the whites and maybe correct something, but I do actual editing and resize things that I think that were in my mind as outstanding. And since I really have to do the composition, so I go that way, and I really look like the final outcome. And that was like the way I was going to go. I decided not to go in digital, because I think it's you have to use digital as you want. I use digital for illustrations, but I didn't take that path for graphic recording. And I did that, but on Friday I did a graphic recording, and I did it in the pinboard. I used my document camera, which is somewhere hidden there, and I put it.
I'm so happy that we're not showing our tables.
No, it's here. It's here. It's here, but it's connected in a different.
But it's so funny how the virtual work. I mean, it's so cluttered, because there's so many things that.
I'm gonna unplug it maybe, and you can. And it was very cool using it this way. And I actually recorded a time lapse with a document camera, and it was super cool. So I use it this way.
Yeah.
And it really worked. It really worked with the Beamboard, and it really works perfectly.
So to summarize that a little bit is my takeaway is that you first start really practicing getting into the flow, because it's a completely different setting. I mean,
Exactly.
again, the setting is just so different because you're at home and there's not all the people there. I mean, they are there, but they're not there, you know? So, and I think it's getting used to that setting again and creating a setting that makes you comfortable. What I love about this, that it seems that through this exercise you found, let's say, a new service offering, because you said, you know, before you didn't edit and now you edit. And what I love is that it's still done on paper and not digital, you know, that you can, virtual doesn't necessarily mean it has to be digital. So
Exactly.
I quite like that approach.
I think that with digital, I come from the digital world. I was a UX manager in another life, so I think I have a very relaxed relationship with digital. So I think it's a choice. So whatever works for you is good. It's not like, if I use it for communication, but not for everything. And I use digital sometimes for sketching and illustrations, because if a client says, "Oh, I forgot this," and then easily you can add something. But for my graphic recordings or facilitations, I'm happy with paper. I stick to paper.
Yeah. And how was it for you, Donatella? Like, you know, if you have done a virtual graphic recording? So how was that for you to find your way into this? Because of the complete, like, could you use the same ritual that you have been using before?
And it was very tough for me because I'm not used to doing anything digital. I did twice a year, maybe. And now I have to do full-time digital because the clients are asking for the digital work at the end of the event. So to be quick. But the worst thing for me was reading the room. I think I have the ability of read the room and feel the energy and see things that are not being said, but I can do it in some way. And I can
atmosphere, right? What's the
atmosphere
like? Yes.
So now I don't have it. So the ritual is very different now. For a digital recording, I have to prepare myself like almost 2 hours in advance and start to meditate and prepare things with the logo, the title, whatever that I can, because the clients are working with different digital platforms.
Yeah.
For example, last week I had a work with an energy company, and they were based all over Brazil, so it's a big country, and in remote locations. So they weren't able to put the cameras on.
Exactly.
So I was seeing nothing, just hearing people talking, like listening to a radio. It was so different and very for me. Now, after 5 sessions like that, I'm kind of find a way to do it, but it took me a lot of effort in the beginning to get used to it and to find that flow that Elena was talking about. Now it's
fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah,
the atmosphere is not there, and especially with not seeing people, you know, to me that's also, I mean, in a training I always look for affirmation, you know, you sometimes you scan the room, people nod, or you can see people smile, or at least you can, you know, there's energy in the room. But if everybody's on mute, you know, you don't even hear background noises or laughter or things like that, you know, because you only ever hear one person talking. So I agree, you know, that definitely makes a huge difference. Wow. Christian, how about you?
I think so. Either paper or digital depends on what is. For me, it's just a tool. So whatever the client wants. Now with Corona, it's been more just plain digital because of the speed and for the link up. So you can easily link up with Zoom or whatever the platform, Teams or whatever they're using, and it's sort of instantaneous. And I also appreciate the ability to quickly shoot away images during the day. So if it's a 2-hour meeting, maybe we'll do one image. But if it's a whole day, or if it's a workshop like I had last week, where I was following the moderator into different breakout rooms, that was really crazy. You know, you jump in and you listen to her and you do a scan of the room and their discussion, and then she says, okay, now I'm gonna leave, and then you jump into something else, and then you're like, okay, switch page, next one, what are they talking about? And you sort of have to like jump into the water and see. It's like moving into a new party, and just everyone is having a blast and just having fun and chit-chatting, and you dive in and you have to like sort of, okay, what is the essence of the capture here? And then at the end of the day you have to present something, and it's like, okay, I hope someone, you know, recognizes their thoughts. But that's the thing, you know, when you're recording what people are experiencing, everyone is like, oh yeah, this is we remember that. Or people say, oh, please don't leave our room, can you stay with us? Or so it's very different, but it's another,
there's an interesting takeaway for me here too. So one, also something that Donatella said is, you know, the clients, or Christian, you said the clients want to have the result immediately.
Yeah.
You know, because it is virtual, they think, and you're doing it digitally, they think, you know, you can deliver it instantaneously. That's interesting, right? Because typically you will need some work afterwards to finish and to clean and so on and so on. But also what I think is interesting is that because it is virtual, there's new ways of working. Like, because now you can jump into different breakout rooms in a split second.
Yes.
You don't have to move through hallways, you know, in a hotel, or
pull the whole pin board.
Yeah, if you think of that again, you know, this is it's interesting because it's a completely new offering. You know, it was not possible before with one person. You know, of course you could have your bees, your worker bees, you know, and they could come back and give you input or feedback. Christian.
But it's also challenging in another way, because if you're doing a large mural where you have like 3 meters of canvas or a pinboard or whatever the size, that stays fixed when you're in the room with people and people can walk up to it. When it's digital, many times, you know, when you take that away, that slide is gone. It's not in the room anymore. So I miss that in a way if you're using many different slides, or the ability for the people to wander around by themselves and look at this. That I sort of feel that connection is a little bit lost with digital. And
I can share my experience with regarding that, and it was from Friday as well, and that I drew in the pinboard. There were 2 murals at the end, and it was an inspirational talk and then a workshop with breakout rooms as well. And what I did, I took a picture, and they were working in not mural this time, and the graphic recording was in their rooms, like in a real room. They had the mural setup had a space for my drawing. And I don't do that much work afterwards. That's why also maybe I'm editing. I kind of finish more or less like in real time. Sometimes I don't, but if I have the mindset to do it, I do it. So since I knew they wanted it to be there as an inspiration for their workshop, to have it, as you mentioned, Christian. So I had them in my mindset that I had to have like an MVP of my graphic recording. And even I could just do it in lines, black and white. And that was my first thought. But since you know that every speaker has a different rhythm and a different approach, and the guy that he was given a super big inspiration, and he sent me some hours beforehand his presentation, and he had so many names to illustrate concepts and ideas. So then when I started with my flow, when I started drawing, and I thought I was going to do it in black and white, and then I remember he started with these little specific names that I wasn't going to capture because they were above 100 and it's specific names or something. So I even had time to give color. So it was finished in 95%. So because I shift my mindset in the moment, because I had time at the moment he was giving all these mini names that weren't useful to be captured, I had time to color. So I had my mind ready for the graphic recording to be finished because it had to be hung in the virtual room.
I'm wondering if maybe the virtual or the digital world also enables you to collaborate more, you know, that you don't just have one graphic recorder, but, you know, I don't know, maybe one person focuses on capturing the content and then you just edit and the other person on the layout, because again, I'm pretty sure, you know, you could do this. So you could work on one graphic recording simultaneously.
Yeah.
Well, digitally, you know, maybe not on paper.
Yeah.
But there's another thing that I'm interested in, because Elena said in the very beginning, you know, when she prepares, she mainly listens, synthesizes, and then draws. And I was so the question for you, for all of you, is how has the listening part changed in, you know, in the virtual environment? Because, well, I just so I have these cards here from Bright Pilots, which I really like. And because we are in this virtual world, and I have to go through them, like sometimes what may happen is this.
Oh.
Right? Because maybe the connection is so bad and you can't, I don't know, you can't hear someone, or I don't know, the person doesn't speak up. Of course, that could happen in the real world as well. But did you find the listening part different in the virtual world? Donatella, what do you think?
Oh, I found it very different because sometimes I need to close my eyes and from a different place inside me to understand, because in the online event or session, things are different. You cannot talk on top of each other, so you have to wait. So people sometimes are more slow to bring their ideas together. The opposite. They are in a hurry and anxious because they have a camera in front of them, so they speak very fast. So it's the opposite. So I have to be careful with these two different ways of talking. People are changed because of the camera. And when I lost the connection, I tried to link the ideas, but always inside of my mind. So I'm closing my eyes even now to think about it, you know?
Yeah.
Very different because I don't have the body language. I just the head when I see something, and I don't have the body language to go with it. So I have to pay more attention and sometimes close my eyes to real listen to the message.
How is it for you, Christian?
I don't know if the listening virtually is super much different, because if I have a person, I guess it depends on what kind of setting it is. If it's like in a workshop or if it's in like a motivational speak or whatever. But normally I have my back towards the person if I'm on stage anyway, so I don't see him. Or maybe I turn around and look at their slide or something like that. But otherwise I'm super focused on their voice. And what is challenging, I guess what you're asking, what is different is, one, if someone drops out, and two, if I drop out. I mean, this would be like worst case scenario. So I tried not to use Wi-Fi. I tried to use cables as much as possible. I'm wearing my noise canceling headset, so I don't have kids and the neighbors and all kinds of distractions, so I can like sort of super focus. Because what also happens digitally is you have so many variations of quality in the sound. And this really challenges me. I was doing a big graphic recording and they brought in a woman from India, and she had a very lovely dialect that I hadn't heard before, and she spoke really fast on a topic that was somewhat alien to me, and the connection was super bad. So there were a lot of challenges, and then you're faced with, you know, a lot of people sitting watching you, and so you need to just Hakuna Matata, just out and just
take it easy.
Breathe.
So how is that listening part different for you, Elena?
Well, for me, it's very interesting. Thank you also for setting this, because it's very interesting to listen to others. For me, it's not so different. That's why I mentioned that state of flow that I've been trying. And regarding the connection, if it's not me, if it's them, what to me it's similar to what I do in real life, because what I do when I'm capturing a session, I draw whatever is happening there.
Yeah.
So probably what I would do, it's include that in the because if say I have a very the same, I use always the same example, but illustrates this feeling very well. I was like a celebration session of some kids that were doing a program with corporate volunteer a long time ago, and for and no reason at all, everyone was dropping their coffee. Everyone, like it was like, haha, another coffee dropped. So there, I had this dropping coffee guy in my picture, so I kind of used to include whatever goes on. So if it's not me, then that would be the biggest cure. Is it? I would include it or just listen, and also I think. Even clients, or at least in my experience, everyone is more understanding as well, because we are all in the same. Maybe it's the biggest speaker. It's like no one hears the big. So it's kind of something that happens. So and regarding what Donatella, that was interesting for me, like closing the eyes. I never look at the speaker, or I just look at the speaker or whatever they're projecting. If it's a weird thing that I don't know what is, it's a robot or something, that's what's that. But otherwise, it distracts me to look at them. So I never look at them. So for me, when I'm doing it here, see, here is my screen, and I'm drawing like this, looking to the window and to the drawing. Yeah. So for me, that connection was fine. But if it's me, I don't know, a bit more terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like what you say, you know, at the end of the day, we're all into this, you know, we're all in this together. It was just funny that last time when I was also on the call with Jill from the US, and I would do this like I can't hear you, but she said in the US it's like you're crazy.
You're crazy, yeah. Hey, loco.
But that's not what I meant. It was more like, hey, I can't hear you. But I mean, I've made several experiences where you need to have a good mic, you know, you need to have good speakers. And I think it's worth investing in good equipment so that you also that you can be the best you can be in this situation, right? Because again, if you have bad speakers or as a graphic recorder, you don't need the microphone that bad, but you know, you at least need to have good quality sound so that you can then convert that into your drawings.
But sorry to interrupt, Frank. It's like showing up with you can show up with cheap markers, or you can show up with our favorite markers from Neuland, right? I think this goes the same. I mean, you could basically buy a simple tablet, or you could buy the iPad Pro. I mean, there are so many different ways, and you can buy a cheap ass, sorry for my Swedish, camera, or
beep it out.
Yeah. But I think if you're serious about this and you want to do virtual trainings and you want to do virtual graphic recording, you need to have the good stuff. It doesn't have to break the bank, but you need to have good stuff.
Yeah, good quality. Elena, you also want to say something, and then I have another question for you.
Just a little thing that it was new in these virtual experiences, that normally for me, I get roughly good preparation meetings with clients. It's just, I said, oh, Elena, what do you need? And they don't give me enough time. But now I'm getting more preparation. So that feeling that Donatella was missing about all that reading the room, that I also like scan what's going on. Since I have more preparation conversations, and they are also nervous of what's going on, I have more information beforehand than ever.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a great observation, you know, because probably people started thinking it's the usual thing, but now because we're in this virtual world, you know, they're also more anxious, like things could go wrong, you know, we need to prepare. This time we really need to prepare.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. So how does your profession as being a graphic recorder, among other things, but how does that help you in being a trainer? So because now you also enable people, and not all of them would like to become graphic recorders, but how does that support you being a trainer? Because it's something completely different. Donatella, let's start with you.
For me, it was very helpful regarding confidence, because all the students, the bikablo students, are afraid of, oh, I can draw, I can do this, I can hold the marker right, I can use color. So I can show them the other side of this whole scenario, right? So in the beginning, for me, it was like this with the markers or with colors or writing or preparing myself. So I have a huge amount of tips to give to them and to build their confidence in a different way, because it's a real experience.
Great. Thank you. Elena, how is that for you? How does it help you being a graphic recorder to show up as a trainer? How does that help you?
To me, it's also connected to confidence, but it's about having answers for them, because since it's about big representation, big size, and resources for representing things and structurings and layouts. So it's like when they come to me, when I'm happy, it's because I think I have a backpack of answers. Yeah, but how would you sort this out? Oh, I would do this, and this. And I think also it's kind of also a good support for them. Like, well, someone that's using these drawings in a professional way to help understanding and to communicate. So it kind of makes sense as well for them. But to me, I find it like it's a backpack of answers regarding representation.
Yeah, very cool. Christian, how's that for you?
Well, for me, I show that I'm human. You know, when you're doing graphic recording, it's so fast that I make mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes. I can often hide them, but you know, being trilingual, you listening to different languages, you know, spelling mistakes and things like that. So in my trainings, when people are afraid of making mistakes, because people have this notion that it needs to be perfect, you know, having the graphic recording, it's not about the image, it's about, you know, the understanding. It's not about making picture perfect representation of art. It's like, do you understand what the conversation is about, and does this add to your memory of that? I think that helps me just to show up as a trainer and say, listen, you know, we're all humans, you know, let's just have fun and draw, and I think that helps people relax, and because there's this thing that it needs to look nice and it needs to be perfect, and people compare it to what they see on Instagram. I do this as well, and yeah, so being able to make mistakes, I think this is a fundamental understanding that helps me.
Well, I think it's good, you know, that you're able to tell people that also in graphic recordings, you know, mistakes happen, because just like Elena
It's so
said,
fast.
sometimes you do the editing afterwards, right? So people only see the digital result, but they don't see, you know, what has happened on paper. So you can still, you know, do some manipulations. I have to say, you know, I'm happy that there are so many, well, not so many, but that we have graphic recorders on the team, not just globally, but also here in Germany, because I can't answer all of the questions. And then it's fantastic, you know, to have people that you can rely on. I'd say my strong suit is rather, you know, the training, being in the room with the people, enabling them how to draw. But then in graphic recording, yes, of course, I can do some of the things, and I can explain lots of the techniques that you would use, and I always use it in meetings, but not in large scale events. So it's always fantastic that you have people that you can rely on and you can draw on. I think that to me is a fantastic asset. Ellen, it looked like you wanted to say something. I'm not entirely sure. No, I was trying to read the room. You know.
Yeah, but well, it's a little thing, but you know you know, when one of the things of this virtual communication, and this is beyond drawings. It's like people I have heard in some webinars and some interviews that people forget that this is a kind of a conversation to be shared, because you get so relaxed and I'm just looking at, so I forget that this, and I'm very comfortable, so I forget that this. And I have heard that a lot. Yeah.
I agree. It's like when you're there, and to me, it's just like with traveling. I don't like traveling that much, but when I'm there, like when I'm, for example, in Sao Paulo or in Malmö or in Madrid, you know, I just enjoy being there. I enjoy everything about it, and you know, just being in this moment. But the traveling part, you know, the bit to get there, I don't necessarily like. And that's the interesting part, because we were speaking about ritual, and I talked about that with Julian Xiaoli and Jaya in the last interview. I think to me, one of the huge challenges is, Elena said, for example, her ritual is, you know, you slow down, you have a nice dinner, or you have time to wind down. But in this virtual world, it's just like click, zit, it's over. You know? And then you are in your environment. I mean, right now, you know, I'm at home, so I will open the door and the family is there, which of course on the one hand is great, but you don't have this processing time.
No.
You know, and to me that is still a mystery somehow.
Yes, it is. It is.
Christian, go ahead.
I have I don't know if it's a pro tip or something, but for me, it's super important to, for myself, book time to recover. You know, when I started, I could say yes to a gig one day and say yes to a gig the following day. But now it's just, I've learned that, you know, it just, when I'm there, I give everything of myself. And afterwards, I'm just totally at 0%. So I need to really, the next day, have a time to mentally recharge. And I think this is something that you need to, you know, I think it speaks to what you're saying as well. You need to time to land, because it is an exhausting process.
Yeah, you don't just close one window and then jump into email.
Well, you could do it, but sooner or later your brain is gonna.
Yeah, and we don't want that.
Sooner or
For your
later,
hand for writing.
sooner or later
Right.
you pay it. If you book that time for recovery, you pay it like 3 days after. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's so interesting, because many times what people see is just, you know, you show up and you do the magic in the room. But I think most of the time really happens beforehand, when you start preparing, and also afterwards. So all of this before and after is something that people don't necessarily see. And the recharging, again, to me is super important. So I'm not going to look at email when we finish this when we finish this session. Yeah, which, you know, we're already at the end of the session, so an hour flies by just like this. I have really enjoyed our conversation. Is there anything else you would like to add to this? Because I don't want to just finish without you having had the chance to say something you want to say. Or do you feel like everything has been said?
I just want to say a little thing that it's going to become like a mission in my life and a mantra. Everyone should draw as they know how to write. People should use drawing as an expression, as a way to express themselves. And I think in these moments, I wrote it in a comment yesterday, I think it's very important right now that we are able to express our thinking in a clear way.
Very true.
And drawing is a tool.
Sorry. I will encourage people to go offline and have a notebook to do some sketching or write down in colors, to get away from the computer, from the cell phone, to get a little me time offline. So it's good.
Christian,
and since we're encouraging people, I will encourage people to be nice to people and be nice to the environment, but as well, just, you know, do ugly shit. Don't try to do complicated artwork. I'm not an artist, I'm not an illustrator, but still, this is my profession and people love what I do. So just try to relax and have fun with, like Elena says, you know, grab some markers, go find your kids, and if you don't have any kids, borrow some kids. They will love you for drawing with them, and just have fun and try to not to make it serious. I mean, there's enough of that in the world.
So two things. One is, so while I had a little bit of time, when I traveled Latin America in 2011, and I had this. So this is the diary that I had back then, and I'm reading my diary. But I also had a diary, and unfortunately I don't have it here. So a friend just gave me a Moleskine book and said, "You're not allowed to write. You're only allowed to draw." And that was back in 2011, so I didn't have anything to do with visual facilitation. It's pretty cool to look at it. So, you know, there's some fun things in there and great memories. So I look at the drawings, I'm just like, yeah, I remember where I drew this. So that comes back to what Donatella said about what you said, Christian, you know, to be kind. I recently got the book, and I have to read the title here, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. And there's also something about being kind in that book.
Yes.
And so that's a cliffhanger. So people now really have to buy the book. I love the book. It's
in the mail. It's in the mail.
It's fantastic. I love it. And you know, when you read this about the being kind part, I'm pretty sure it will come back to memory. So it was lovely spending time with you. Big time. I hope that I can see you soon in person.
Yeah.
But spending this time, you know, just virtually just gives me lots of energy. So thank you very much for this. I love it.
Thanks to you. Thanks to
Thank
all.
you. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.